Good evening, and welcome to the fifth episode of our Women in Seas interviews, where we interview a series of accomplished women every day. I'm Afra from Lanagyan, and I'm very, very happy, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome my two esteemed guests for this evening, Mrs. Jigna from the Bookoholics Club, and Mrs. Shweta Jain, who has founded a club called Kitable Club. Now, both of our guest speakers today, although they have set up different book clubs, their aim is to essentially promote reading and motivate women and young girls to read and empower themselves through the lessons that they may learn through reading. So, firstly, a very warm welcome to you, Jigna ma'am.
Thanks a lot to Afra, you and Romal for giving me such an opportunity to be in your show. It's a really pleasure of mine, and thanks a lot Nandagdown Foundation for this wonderful initiative.
You're most welcome. So, firstly, since you're doing such an important job out there, because these days reading is a very rare commodity, especially among children. And the fact that you've started, I believe that you started this club, taking inspiration from your daughter because you wanted her to read and, kind of grow up into a very strong and obviously empowered woman. So, can you shed some light on how exactly your daughter inspired you as such, or how this club was birthed and when this happened?
Yes, absolutely. So this is the story I keep on telling, and it's very like close to my heart. So Bookaholics Book Club actually started because of my daughter, because I wanted her to start reading books. We never read books like in our childhood, but I just wanted to make sure that she reads the books, and at least she gets this habit of reading from the childhood itself. So, and that's when we I thought that for doing that I have to start reading. I mean, I was not an avid reader myself, so that's how we started with a group of 7 members, just a normal WhatsApp group where we used to meet, chat, we used to exchange books, and that's how the journey started. So we started in 2016, and but just I want to add you that I am actually an IT professional. So I keep on reading lot of certification, or lot of technical books, but I thought that there is something world outside that as well. So it was really, I can say, there are a lot of books which actually inspired me, and which I was actually able to tell stories to my daughter as well. So today now she has a lot of books herself, and she can also say stories. Now it's the other way around, she inspires me.
That's really wonderful. I think young girls, especially young children, they must be, kind of you must develop this habit into them because growing up, it really, I believe, shapes a lot of things in them, their opinions, their perspectives, a lot of things about, how they look at life. So before moving on, I'd like to introduce my second guest, Shweta ma'am. She is a CA and an educator, and she has founded the Kitabe Club. So, ma'am, a very warm welcome, first of all. And could you please share some insight on your club and how you set it up, where the inspiration came from?
Thank you so much, Afra, for such a nice introduction. And it gives me immense pleasure to be here. Like
Thank you.
what you said, where you draw your inspiration from, it comes from my childhood.
Mhm,
Since the very beginning, we had a huge library in our drawing room itself, where people usually have
mhm,
television. But then our drawing room was filled with books. There was entire wall which was filled with books, and that is how my reading journey started. And when I grew up, multiple courses, profession, your work responsibilities, your family responsibilities start, taking more space out of your time. And I realized that I miss a strong group of women who come together and discuss and, brainstorm about it. A secure community as such.
mhm,
What started as majorly a joyful experience of sharing what you read and what you like about what you are reading became
mhm.
a full-fledged momentum as we went to different cities and as we went from places to places. So that is how Kitabe Club started shaping up. Plus, it was primarily a need that there is, like Jigna also said, that there is life beyond what you do exactly, like your profession or your career. So then that is how I think so we both started moving forward.
Hmm. Okay, that's a lovely introduction. So, I mean, as you said, both of you, I'm assuming, must be parents to children, and I'm sure you must have kind of inculcated these habits of, reading and the importance of reading as such. But one thing I kind of notice is, for example, some parents try to impose reading on children just to get them away from the electronics. So, typically, what I've heard is, okay, let's say my mother has taken my siblings' phone. She says, okay, do something else. So my brother says, what can I do? I'm so bored. So my mother says, okay, go read a book. So I feel like when something is done out of, you know, compulsion, it tends to be very boring. So for example, if somebody told me, ki, no, you have to do a chore, I would, okay, fine, I have to do this chore. I would be bored. So do you think parents should stop making reading a chore as such? And that would kind of stop children from being discouraged to read, as in, because it is important that children read from their own with their own wish and will. And kind of, I believe imposing it on them would make it feel like it's a chore. They would be very discouraged. Yeah, I'm bored, so I might as well just read. So, what do you think can be done? What do you think parents must do to kind of make it more interesting?
Afra, you
Anyone
want
can
to
take
go
the question.
first?
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
Jigna, you want to go ahead first? That's perfectly all right then.
No, I mean, what I was just telling that, yeah, when you actually, it can be anything, not only reading. Yeah, if we actually impose, it really gets boring. But what actually happens here, as I said, that, if you, there are so many, I can say, parents in my group. So they are a avid reader, but their kids are not. But, when they are seeing their parents are reading, they can at least start picking up, they can start getting that interest, so but and it is not like a, I can say, a compulsion that no, you have to read. I mean, only reading is the only way of life, no. But we can teach, I mean, we can educate that why reading is important, so and there are so many different kinds of books available, not only very, like, I can say, very big books. There are so many small
Hmm.
small books available, which, we can tell kids to read, so that way it doesn't gets very boring as such. And at least it's better than reading the school textbooks.
Okay. Yeah. I agree. I agree. Yes,
Uh,
Shweta ma'am.
I I resonate to some extent to what Jigna said. At the same time, imposing something, wherever whatever it is, like imposing somebody to go to a gym, for that matter, or imposing somebody to go for a morning walk, it becomes a very
Hmm.
tedious task. You do it a day or
Yes.
two. That is one thing I noticed and observed. Like it's for everything, not just reading. Second, primarily, when you look at reading, it is more of a mental relief. So a child would like reading about space. My son personally likes reading about animals, dinosaurs, for that matter. You know, to pick up the interest of the child and then guide. And then there might be like there might be a point where you feel okay, isko to kuch bhi nahi pasand aa raha hai. That means you need to explore another genre because there are several books
Hmm.
available. Third,
Yes, correct.
there is preach what you follow. So, like you give an example of a parent where the parent just took up the mobile phone and asked the child to read. For that matter, what was the parent doing at that time? Because our inboxes are filled. I think Jigna would also agree that our inboxes are filled with comments like, "मैं मेरे बच्चे को रीडर कैसे बनाऊं?" आप पढ़ना चालू
Yes.
करो, आपका बच्चा moreover majority 98% of kids would themselves become reader. So I think so if you want your child to be to have a all-round knowledge of everything, show what you can do rather than teaching or compulsorily saying that this has to be done. There are several qualities you can imbibe from book: kindness, compassion, gratitude, gratefulness. Every single adjective you see in the dictionary can be easily brought up with the help of books. So I would always say that, yeah. Apart from books, there are several other ways, but this works very easily and on a very cheaper manner.
No, I think this is important that you mentioned that, it is important to kind of explore genres, because
Mhm.
typically parents tend to assume, like in my case, my father, he assumed that I would love those thick and fat books because I was an avid reader, but I preferred comics. So he didn't kind of get, and so when I stopped reading as such, I was very discouraged because obviously I was not used to reading fat books. So then he said, you wasted my money. You don't read. What is the point of all of this? You read these silly, childish books. I think it is really important to kind of appreciate the, the genre itself that the kid is reading. and that would kind of encourage, kind of follow this up with encouragement. Okay, you can maybe try out this genre. This is related to that. This is related to that. But one thing that I've been pointed out to when I was a kid was, so once my father asked me, what is so interesting about your books? So I said, it's funny. And obviously, as a juvenile, very juvenile answer I provided, it's funny, it's got nice stories, there's pictures. He said, you should read the newspaper, that's more informative. And then growing up, I kind of started, moving on to more serious books. And then he again asked me, why do you sit and read these books? Read the newspaper instead. I said, no, this is kind of helping me build on some values. It is teaching me a lot, etc., etc., like social awareness and all of those things, because I typically like to read books that center around social issues. So he said, "Arey, to uske liye newspaper bhi pad lo. What's the same? It's the same thing. You're reading the same thing. Even in the newspaper, you see the same things." And at that point, I was like, he isn't wrong, but how do I kind of challenge this view? Because deep in me, I was like, there is some part of this which is incorrect. That a book is much more than just a tool for social awareness. So what would be your views? That is it even justifiable to equate or even compare books and newspapers?
To be honest with you on this, Afra, you're not wrong. I'll answer your question in two parts. The first part where you said that exploring different genres. My own son started reading the books I bought, and later on I realized that he likes books which are filled with illustrations and which talk about exploring and traveling to new places. So he
Hmm.
basically has almost like quite a lot of at least 15 travel cities, Namaste Jaipur, Chalo Kolkata, something of that sort. After buying some 50 books otherwise for him, so he finally sticks to that particular category. So yes, you need to explore rather than choosing what you like. I like
Yes,
reading about
correct.
space a lot. So I'm a Stephen Hawking fan, but my son goes in a different area. And secondly, when you talk about newspaper, the first relatable question which I would like to raise you is newspapers usually, apart from the supplements you get, talk about what is happening current. There is something
Yeah.
called as building up for the nation. That happens to the book. There is something called as analysis evaluation. That happens to the book. A book can give you a different insight. Say, for example, if I want to ask you, after how would you travel to Mumbai at this point? What would you say?
I would probably like take a train or by road or a flight, anything.
Anything, right? I would say that, take a marathon. You can go that ways also. I'm not saying that particularly you do that, but that's the kind of insight a book can give you, because there's somebody else who has experienced what he is writing. Fiction
Yes.
comes with certain amount of
Yes.
experience only. Whosoever says that we are writing fiction book, but certainly draw some experiences from life or otherwise, and then only go ahead. So you learn at somebody else's cost. I guess that's the most cheapest way of learning something. So newspapers don't
Yes, that's
happen it;
right.
they just present what is exactly happening around.
Yes. Yes. So, Jigna ma'am?
Yeah, so I mean, I completely agree whatever Shweta said. Just to add in there that I mean, I don't want to promote, but I really hate reading newspapers at some time. I mean, there are a lot of repetitive stories. Sometimes, yeah, I mean, not the physical newspaper. Yes, the stories which we read, we need to know what is going on in the daily life. But books, and I mean, there is no comparison between books and newspaper. Books sometimes gives you a totally different experience. I mean, just one book can at least show you many places, like the way author describes it, which a newspaper cannot do that, even in spite of having a article about tourism or something. So it's a totally different thing. It again depends that why you want to read newspaper. If you just want to gain GK or something, then yeah, obviously there are so many different things, and at least just you can just get an overview what's going on in day to day, like I mean, there are a lot of other sources these days which we can know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but there is no comparison between books and newspapers. Yeah.
And I also think that, like a book would present its subject matter in a more empathetic way and kind of try and, strike a chord with you. Whereas a newspaper is pretty straightforward. So and so happened, so and so was reported, and this is what the investigation is trying to do. So, with regards to again coming up with stories, I've always seen ki, whenever, let's say some techie or some app developer or someone, an entrepreneur, when they strike lucky. So, you have their big front page stories, their success stories, and how much money they've made, what is the reach of their apps as such or whatever. But The one thing I feel is like people dwell too much on success stories. And I mean, even I think as rightly as Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam once said that, don't dwell on success stories. Instead, look at failure stories, which would kind of give you more ideas to succeed. So, what is your opinion on this? That should readers, I mean, obviously, I personally believe that every success story has a string of failures behind it. That's there, but we tend to generally fixate on the most successful aspect and kind of ignore the failures, like, okay, yeah, so and so happened, but this person eventually emerged victorious. So do you think we as people should invest more in stories of failure and kind of try and draw lessons for ourselves and apply them to our own lives?
Okay. Jigna, you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead, Shweta.
Okay. I'll tell you a typical book. A book, how it starts. A book starts from the main protagonist. The
Mm,
protagonist has struggles. There would be a basic
yes.
plotline of the book, the struggles. There would be some major setbacks, and that is how the protagonist might reach to XYZ location, which could be the
Mm,
peak of the career or the place they want to be, or it could be, a stepping stone or planning for something else. That is one thing a book would do. Secondly, a book would start from a peak point, go to a downhill, and then end on a note that okay, this wasn't it. So when you say
mm,
that, when we look at success stories, no doubt what attracts you most is a success story, but understanding the process behind it cannot be done with for example, with this talk also. So you
yes,
have a
correct.
talk of say 40 minutes, right? And we deliver, okay, this is what we are doing. Wow, this is so good. Excellent. I love the choice of questions you had. But have someone looked at carefully what was the background preparation? No, because we
Mm,
have a time constraint here. But when a book runs for 200 to 250 pages or 300, but there are
mm,
smaller ones also. The one which is by Charlie, a boy, a fox, a mole, which delivers the message outrightly well in 100 pages. So there are books which will take you from the start phase till the end, and likewise when we are here we are looking at the entire process in the background. So that should come within from the reader to understand, to have the zeal that you, okay, I need to know the process from ground zero to the apex point, and also from the perception point of view. It should be both ways. It's not just what book will deliver to you, it also depends upon what kind of choice you are having. But you need to understand that when you want to reach to a XYZ level, there's a certain amount of preparation involved. If I want to be a CA or CS, I need to give certain amount of
mm,
examinations.
mm, mm, mm.
And that is how I am going to be. So if it is about the perception of the reader, and definitely the journey matters, and the journey should be valued.
Yes, that's right.
So just to add in here, again, as you said, that success stories are actually, the way, we put it in the book, like the authors put it in the book, it actually inspires, sometimes you can say the failure stories are not taken in a correct way. But then, there are non-fiction books actually, which actually tells you that, what happens, what is the journey, and, how you can reach, you can be successful. So as Shweta said, it always about your perception, how it actually, I'm so sorry, my phone is ringing. Yeah. So it actually depends that how you see to it. Like, how when you are reading, there are a lot of things which are in the books, which actually teach you that about the protagonist, what is the journey, how it is. And obviously life is not so simple as it looks. We always, there are so many, like, we learn from our failures, but we don't want to, maybe not everyone wants to show that, we failed, but
Yeah,
everyone is so excited to tell the world, like I'm successful. So but definitely, it again depends, as Shweta said, that, how you take it, from the book. Everything is mentioned there, but definitely, it's on the readers, or how you take that. Yeah.
definitely,
Okay,
definitely. So we,
Afra, there's just one thing I'll add here.
yes.
What do you think about Bollywood? This is about everybody who's listening, maybe little, listen later. What do you think about Bollywood? At the point, one thing that you can come across.
Uh, I mean, personally, I'm not a movie watcher, but I would say this, that I find Bollywood glamorous on the surface, yet very shallow from
Yeah.
the inside. That's what I think.
Yeah, but then, but the first thing that comes across is money, glamour,
Yes, yes, yes,
showbiz, right? Right. So
yes.
we always think that these people are very popular. They have everything in life what you need. This is what a general perception is. You might, I might differ, Jigna might differ. But there is a book by Sami Soni which talks about, okay, how difficult it is to live life. So there is
Hmm.
somebody out there who is saying that, okay, it is difficult for him too. So likewise, if there is someone who is feeling that, okay, I am the one who has suffered the most, right? You know, we being as mothers, we always feel that, Jigna, I think so you would also agree, घर बच्चा काम यार एक दिन
Yes.
ऐसा लगता है सब लेके जाओ. बट हम किस साइड की स्टोरी पे देख रहे हैं ना, वो जो है वो आपके लिए एक बुक आपको आपको अकेला ना फील करने देगी कि आप अकेले नहीं हो जो तकलीफ में हो. एक बुक वो भी होगी जो आपका हाथ पकड़ के कहेगी, अरे चलो इस मुश्किल से हम आपको बाहर लेके चलते हैं. आप कहाँ
Hmm.
पे हैं, आप क्या ढूंढ रहे हैं, हर चीज के लिए बुक है. पेरेंटिंग, कुकिंग, मूवी मेकिंग, आई डोंट नो, आई जस्ट एम लॉस्ट ऑफ जॉनर्स एट दिस पॉइंट.
Hmm. Wait, talking about genres, before I get into the more serious questions that I have, I just want to keep this a very light-hearted conversation at some point as well. Talking about genres, what genres do you prefer when you started reading out or at this point? Anything?
I will
Either
be
of you
just
can
back.
start.
I think
Yes.
Shweta, you can continue.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So when I started reading, I read a lot of non-fiction. Started reading with a lot of fiction books. Stories was my like go-to genre. But then when I look at myself now, I'm a major non-fiction guy. I mean, I can read a 600 pages book, which is all about sharks. I will read about a 500 pages book, which is about Andamanese culture. I'll read about the Bangladeshi war happily for like 700 pages also. So as a reader, I have widened my horizon, and I would happily say that I do go back to fiction when I feel the reality is getting too much for me. I go back to fiction,
Yeah.
but otherwise, if I need, okay, let's do this. That's where my non-fiction comes into picture.
And Jigna ma'am?
Yeah, for me, actually, I at least I will say I started with very what do I say, romance books. I mean, very youth fictions. You can say young adults, but then over the time, I actually like historical fictions a lot. So I have read a lot of books on Holocaust, and that's how I like those
Me too.
books
I
most.
love the
Yeah.
reading about the Nazis. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but I
No,
just
no,
like
no.
I love reading about the Nazis. That is.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So,
mean,
yeah.
yes, please continue.
No, no. So there's a book actually which if you, I mean, if many of them know me, there is one book Between Shades of Grey which I actually like. I just read it somewhere. I don't know. I was just browsing somewhere on Goodreads and I really liked that and I picked that up. It's between the war between the Poland and this. Uh, I think it was. Stallion and this people were living in Lithuania. So it's about one author who has written about someone who actually survived that and how it happened, and it was so dark. It was like but then I just kept on reading those kind of books. I don't know, maybe it attracted me a lot. So I really prefer historical fictions a lot, but yeah, I do read sometimes very light reads in between. So it again, as Shweta said, it really depends on the mood. Sometimes I was never a thriller or suspense reader, but there are a lot many suggestions which keeps on coming in our group. So sometimes we have book of the months and I think that's not my taste, but I somehow like that book. There was a thriller book which we picked up. I thought, no, I'll not read it beyond first chapter, but it actually got me into reading that. I tried to complete it in within, I think, 5 6 days. Because I was so कि क्या होने वाला है
Engrossed.
next. I was so curious to know. So again, it depends the book, how you're reading, but yeah, I mean, as Shweta said, it depends on the mood at that point of time.
So I just like to build upon the historical fiction that you've said, see, personally, I love historical fiction, but obviously, I honestly haven't read it in the capacity that you guys have read it because, I mean, from whatever I have seen, I mean, I've been a student in the very recent past. I've obviously read stuff about that, but and obviously I am curious to kind of venture out into more insight into these things. But one thing that I've seen with regards to historical fiction is a lot many times my own friends, I would say, are very dismissive towards history. Like, it was a thing of the past. Why is it, how is it affecting me now? Why do I have to read about this now? It is so messed up and so detailed, and there are so many dark outcomes as such. So I feel like, do you think, I mean, I don't feel, I mean, what I mean to say is, do you think that kind of being out of touch with what happened in the past, like, dismissing historical accounts as such, would kind of lead us to be disconnected with our present as well with regards to important social issues? Just say, if I was to name one, for example, let's say Black Lives Matter. I'm just picking one out of the blue, because a lot many people don't know that blacks have been subject to slavery and oppression in the past, and why the Black Lives Matter movement is so important. So, what is your opinion on this? Can this dismissal of our historical accounts lead to an absolute disconnect from the present world and the importance of social issues today?
So I'll take it first, Shweta. If you, so as you said that हो गया वो हो गया. See, obviously, I mean, even today, like there are so many things sometimes which we regret, like in the childhood, like when we see someone, we wish that we could have done that, किया होता था, lot of things, but this historical fictions actually, for example, I was reading this book about Gandhi ji, about a lot of other books on our Indian freedom. So it actually let us know that what actually happened, what how many people have actually. I think Afra, are you hung or her video is frozen?
Yeah, I think,
Sorry, the
yeah, I think
Okay.
connection
she's
is a
back.
bit, yeah, the connection was a bit off.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just trying to switch to data. Yeah, please continue.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So so it's not definitely a dismissal, but actually when you are reading that, I think that I when I read that, I actually try to tell my daughter that this all things happened, that you should be today. I mean, this is only about history, about India, that today we are living where we are actually breathing the freedom is because of that. So I really like that stories, I mean, like as in that we should know that what are the sacrifices people have made, and what you are there today. So I think that and no, that is not the present issues which we have, the social issues currently. I think we should learn that uh, what has happened in the past. I think we should try to resolve them, instead of again, I don't want to go into that, but again today what is happening with Ukraine and Russia, so
Mhm,
that's
mhm,
again a totally different thing, so we already know what happens in the past. So uh, I think this book should be there, should be there, made available in the present, and people should read that, so they know what actually happened in the past.
mhm. Okay.
Um, to hear when you specifically mentioned after about BLM, like Black Lives Matter, people, those who are not knowing what is the background like, what is the history like, they wouldn't care less. It will be like, okay, somebody has been killed, and that is there. Why that particular person, say
Mhm,
George Floyd, mattered so much was the fact that this has been a series of events during the entire history. From the world, from the part where the world started till we are here, 2022, this has been a problem. So that particular one
mhm,
life represented series of problems which are continuing till 21st century. And how would
mhm,
you understand that why this problem came into picture? If you look at the history. So why
mhm,
history is necessary? Historical fiction is necessary to understand what should not happen in your future. So a strong historical knowledge would reframe or better frame your future. So that is an easier way to understand, okay, what went wrong in the past should not be repeated. So for example, we are in COVID, the pandemic hasn't ended for most of us, for most of the countries
mhm,
around the world. So what mistakes we made initially should not be repeated for something like this in the future. What we did better, as a part of history. History just doesn't mean something wrong which was done. History also means something good which was done. So your history comes with a pinch of salt and sugar both. Take that and build up your future. So those who say that we don't enjoy history, okay, you are missing out on your future. You're not building on something which is powerful and relevant. So when we talk about economics, we talk about people. It is all about data. It is all about what has happened in the economy, within the life of the people, and that is how you build up your future. The government also does the same for us, and that is how I think so. You should go ahead when it comes to historical fictions.
Hmm. Okay, because yeah, I completely agree with your views on that. I mean, I think a lot many friends of mine, as in there was this, you know, quite a bit. There was quite a bit of a frenzy around the whole Black Lives Matter issues, and not just that, a lot of social issues that have cropped up in the past. But it was funny because there was one of them which I properly did not understand what it was, and so I asked my friend, you know, you've been posting a lot about this. What is the actual background? And she had no clue. She's like, I'm just posting it for awareness. I'm like, are you aware yourself? So it's really important, I suppose, because then I think it really adds to the substance that the whole matter is trying to, kind of bring out to light. So one more thing that I want to say is about I've been reading, I've being a student myself, I have had my fair share of failures, and so a lot of my teachers and friends, of course, they've suggested self-help books. Yeah, but
Right.
when I read a self help book once, I don't remember which one it was. It was a very long time ago. I think I don't even recall what the name was. It was quite a long time ago, and I left it halfway because it was so technical and so detailed. So, do you think sometimes self help books can actually not serve the purpose that they actually intend to? Because at times, the nature of issues that we face may be very different from the nature of issues the author has faced. So, what are your views on that?
To be honest with you, Afra, at a particular time when you said about you know encountering or having first-hand failures, I think so you should be pretty young by then, like 14, 15,
Mhm.
16. I am assuming that. And
Yes.
for some kids, I will say you kids, so some kids, it would work, a self-help would work, but for majority of kids, they would get easily bored up. क्या प्रवचन दे रहे हो? Self-help book
Yeah.
सबसे best क्या करते हैं? They start on one point and they end on one point. There is no midway
Mhm.
around. And
Mhm.
why you need iteration? Because that's how it goes into your head. That is first thing. That would work wonderfully for adults and some younger kids, but not for everybody. Let
Mhm.
me give an example of a book which is entirely a fiction book. This is Valmiki's Women by Anand Neelkanth. We all come with a mindset that this is right, this is wrong. But when you look up from other person's perspective, it changes your outlook entirely. I'm also that sort of a person, यार ये सही है ये गलत है, बट उस बुक में एक इंसिडेंस होता है. वो जो ऋषि है वाल्मीकि, वो एक फॉरेस्ट में बैठ के ही इज इनटू सम ध्यान मुद्रा, एंड ही जस्ट नोटिसेस अ सेट ऑफ बर्ड, एंड वो जो पेयर ऑफ बर्ड है वो बहुत ही हैप्पी दिख रहा है. सडनली एक डकैत आता है और वो उन बर्ड्स का ना, एक उसमें से जो हस्बैंड होता है उसका खून कर देता है, और वो वहां से उस हस्बैंड को उठा के निकल जाता है, मतलब द बर्ड हस्बैंड.
Mhm.
And the rishi is very agitated. He's like, I need to teach a lesson, how he can wake up a house which was so happy and all those things. तो वो जो
Mhm.
डकैत है वो आगे बड़े स्पीड में जा रहा है, और ऋषि जो है उसके पीछे चलते हुए जा रहे हैं. और क्या होता है, वो ऑब्वियसली क्योंकि स्पीड में होता है, आगे होता है, तो वो अपने घर पहुंच जाता है. उनको ये समझ में आता है, जो ऋषि है, कि भाई वो डकैत का जो बच्चा है, उसने कुछ लड़की थी वो, उसने कुछ 5-6 दिन से खाना नहीं खाया था. अगर वो ये फीस
Mhm.
नहीं खाती तो वो आज मर जाती थी. तो
Mhm.
उस समय उन्होंने क्या सोचा कि सही और गलत कुछ नहीं होता है, ये आपके सिचुएशन, आपका नजरिया, आपके सर्कमस्टांसेस बना देते हैं. सो व्हेन
Mhm.
यू सेड अबाउट picking up a non-fiction because you are facing some challenges in your life, I'm like, you can draw this from a non-fiction book itself. There is nothing called as a fiction or a non-fiction. It is just about looking at the right place. There is one line that works for you, and that is how a book is sold for you or a book becomes special for you. I would certainly recommend non-fiction books for those who are looking for it, not just a suggestion. आप कुछ चैलेंज है, आप कुछ ग्रोथ चाहते हैं, आप उसके लिए नॉन फिक्शन उठाइए, ना कि आपको ऐसा लगता है मैं स्टक हूँ लाइफ में, ये नॉन फिक्शन मेरे लिए कुछ मैजिकल वॉन्ड लेके आएगी. At that point, it becomes a burden, and like you, most people
Yes.
will live it midway.
Yes. Yes.
I guess
Yes.
Jigna
Correct.
also would say नॉन फिक्शन सही टाइम पे नहीं उठाया तो वो एयरप्लेन है.
Yes, yes, Afra. Like, um, a lot of discussion and debate happens on our group for the same thing. Many people suggest that, chalo, like, this is the uh, the book Atomic Habit, that's so, like, popular, but few people could not read it. It's very famous. It's like, it's sold a million copies, but not, as you said, like, at one point of time you cannot read it. Like, now, coming to the other, like, the secret, sorry, Ikigai, that's a very popular book. I actually love,
Yes.
I liked it. I mean, but then, there was again a debate in our group. No, like, few people like, Arey, this is common, like, why it is famous, the points or whatever is mentioned, it's like we do daily, like, especially the Indians, so maybe the way who is writing the book, again, like, maybe a foreigner or whoever, he but I the way it was mentioned, about the Japan, the traditions and lot of things, I liked it personally. But again, yeah, I cannot preach that every day, or I cannot make that in my day to day life every day. But sometimes we think that, ha, humne ye padha tha, but again, yeah, self help book is not for everyone. Yeah, it, again, as Shweta said, it's when, if you are facing some challenges, there are a lot of things, like, you just feel stuck, you can just pick it. It's not like a novel, it's not like a fiction book. You can't just sit and read. So I was just having this conversation with, Pandit Shubha Vilas. So he has written Think Beg to Win, and he has written a lot of series based on this Ramayana. As Shweta gave an example. So there are so many things that, the way Ravan thought, like, why he thought that way, what, like, Ram and Sita. So what you can learn from that, so what mistakes they have done. Obviously we will not do that kind of mistakes, because their life was totally different. But
Hmm.
he wants, like, people to read that. And it's not like, you can sit and read. No, I mean, it's like, whenever you face some problem, you can pick up that book and you can read. So there are so many, there was one chapter which I really liked on expectations, and there was, what was the, I could not recollect, but uh, expectations and assumptions. Yeah. So and that paragraph was very, like, it really touched my heart, that Ravan assumed that, Ram, if he cannot save Sita, he will not come and fight with me. So that was his assumption. So he was just sitting, he was assuming that no, but Ram, at the other hand, he was building his, king, like, sorry, his group, like, with the Hanuman, and he was building his army. So that is a assumption, so which we never might have thought in that way. So this can lie on your bookshelf, but
Hmm.
it's not definitely that, when you actually you are feeling very low, you pick up that book. No, at that point of time you need to pick up some light, read some very funny comedy or some light read book, which will at least boost up your mood, instead of going with the self-help book.
Hmm. Okay. So,
Jigna, I'll just add after just 1 second, like what Jigna
yeah, yeah,
said.
yeah, sure.
I cannot, I could not finish off Atomic Habits. I could not finish off The Power of Subconscious Mind.
Oh
Honestly,
my
I
God.
love Ikigai. So I'm just, bouncing on Jigna's recommendation that how much alike we are, like, how similar we are that ways. That it is okay. It has I think so more than 60,000, 70,000 reviews on Amazon, but we both couldn't finish it, I guess. Yeah, so that explains.
I'll be
Yeah, so
honest
then
with
again,
you.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, go
please
ahead.
continue, continue. No, no,
No,
please
you go
continue.
ahead.
I was
No, no,
saying
that's
that,
what I'm telling.
sorry,
Okay.
sorry.
No,
Would
I
you like
was
to go
saying that,
ahead? Yes.
yeah, yeah, at one point of time, I was reading this, Robin Sharma's, uh,
The
what is
Monk Who
that
Sold
book?
His Ferrari.
The Monk Who Sold His
Yeah,
Ferrari.
this is the book
So,
which I gave up on. Yeah.
so I didn't complete it, but there was only a part of that which actually stayed with me. Some, I mean, at least So again, yeah, you cannot complete this book. It's not like a, it's not like a textbook, it's not like a story. You can't read everything, like, on the self-help book. You just have to take what you actually feel from the self-help book and
Yeah.
just leave it, like, yeah.
I don't now I
Afra,
can clearly remember. Yes, please go ahead.
just 1 second. When I was of your age, I was given two books, My Uncle Sold His Ferrari and Who Moved My Cheese. I hated those books. I was like, मतलब क्या है? And when I read them now, it makes a lot of sense to me.
It's
So hold
Hmm.
them tight.
Hmm.
You need not waste your money again and buy them again. Hold them tight. Take them out of your cupboard, say 15 years down the line, and that would make sense to you. Not at this point, certainly not.
Actually, my cousin, he's quite older to me, and he had The Monk Who Sold His Pride. This was in 2013 when I was 13 years old. And he just handed the book to me. He's like, it's a very good book. You should try and read it. It was absolute jargon to me because I didn't understand a word of what he was trying to say. So, as I said, the nature of my issues were very different and very simple, I would say, as compared to what he was talking about. And with regards to atomic habits, I could not get past the first chapter as well. I was like, I don't get what this man is trying to say. Maybe it is beneficial as I move on. I may get something, moving ahead. But I guess for me, I mean, as a person, I may say this is not a very good thing. But the first chapter itself is a kind of deciding factor for me, and that kind of brings me to my next question. You know, sometimes when I sit to read, I'm just reading physically, but I'm not kind of processing what's happening. That concentration and that headspace, I'm really not into that. And I'm sure a lot of people, I mean, in my personal opinion, a lot of people may be feeling that when you start a book initially, you're simply just reading the lines, but you're not really interested in what's happening unless you kind of move to the meatier bits of it, as in unless you give it more time. So, do you have any tips as such, or how do you tackle with that if you have been through it? Anyone?
So, yeah, I can go ahead. So, this happens when, you have heard a lot good about the book, and
Yes.
so we had two books last time. So, Call Me by Your Name, and there was one more, something with the last. So one book was on, I think, LBGT community and someone, but that was there. So I thought, okay, I'll just pick it, I'll just try to read. But I could not, as you said, I could not get over first few pages. I what's going on, what's happening? So
Yeah.
as such, there is no tip. You can just leave it. There is no compulsion, there is no hard, I can say that nahi karna hi hai, finish karna hi hai. No, uh, only, sometimes we feel like to do justice to the book, so we just keep on reading,
Yes,
that at
yes,
least kuch to hoga
exactly.
aage, like, so there is no tip as such. If you feel, leave it, don't read it, come back again, if you feel to read it. So yeah. And sometimes, as you said, that yeah, first few chapters, you actually think that ha kuch hone wala hai aage, second, when there is some discussions going in the group, so yeah, we can just stick to that also. So that's another point. So the tip is
Hmm.
that, you can read reviews, you can judge yourself, that, this book really for you, and then you can decide if you want to go ahead or you want to just DNF this book. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Would you like to add something, Shweta ma'am? Or
Definitely. To what Jigna said, I 100% agree that if the book is not working for you, go ahead. There is nothing that is going to happen if you don't read or finish up one book. Certainly go to second book for that matter. If it doesn't interest you, don't stop till the time you reach to the book which would interest you. But Afra, do you cook? Do you cook?
sorry, do I?
Do you
Cook.
cook?
Yes, yes, I do.
Um, Definitely. What happens the minute you start the stove or you start pouring water, oil for that matter? What happens? Is the dish ready?
Uh, no, not at all. It's just the
Right?
very initial stage.
That's what happens when
Yes.
you stop for major books in one chapter. So if you look at the first part and you just stop it, it could happen that you don't, there would be character building, there would be building of the aesthetics of the plays, there would be a lot of authors who go into very deep nuances about making you go travel to the place virtually. So there are two things. If the book is really not working for you, like what Jigna said, DNF it and move on to the next book. There is nothing that's going to happen. Sometimes you need to understand the process. It is as good as slow cooking. You build up,
Mm-hmm.
you add spices, you add flavors step by step, and that is how you like the main dish. So don't stop when the
Yes.
oil is just getting steamed up. You need to go ahead a little more, if in case it's something that interests you.
Yes, yes. That makes sense. I'm probably going to look at it through this perspective now. So this brings me to my very last question. It's kind of has a bit of a controversial thing, I suppose. So whenever I have offered a book to a male friend, or let's say, okay, not most likely a male friend. Let's say in my family, which has happened in the past, I offered a book to my father and I said, this is a very good book. You must read it when you're free. Or my brother. I've done it, for both of these men. So he's like, अरे नहीं ये तो लड़कियों का काम है. It's a very feminine activity. Don't involve me in this. I have better things to do. And ये सब पढ़ के कुछ नहीं होने वाला. बाहर असली जिंदगी मतलब बाहर जी जाती है. असली experiences बाहर मिलते हैं. ये सब पढ़ने से कुछ नहीं होने वाला. You won't probably know. So not just that, aside from that, I mean, there's two parts to this question. So I'll go ahead with the first part itself. So do you think there is a sort of ingrained sexism that has caused this sort of opinion? And because also male readers as compared to female readers are very few. So do you think men typically dismiss books because it is a very feminine activity and that they are much more, I would say, macho and they prefer, taking things head on in the real world?
Jigna, let me take the lead. I'll explain why I'm taking the lead in this one particularly.
Mhm.
Ours is a women's only community where we meet, and Jigna's
Mhm.
is, both men and women join in for discussions. We have we have at least 5 mails per week messages on Instagrams, Facebooks that why not men can join them. They are doing equal struggle. Why do you think that okay, men won't read? I have had discussions with my male friends more on books rather than female friends. I have felt that equally in a very opposite way what you are saying. I've seen my father, my mother, both being an equal reader. My grandparents also. My dada was a reader. My dadisa wasn't.
Mhm.
Okay, so I haven't felt it that way. Men equally read. There is nothing. I think so. It's more of a perception. कि it's a time pass work. या फिर वो आप खाली खाली जब होते हो आप तब करते हो. But it is the outer world's perspective. हाँ, ये ज़रूर हो सकता है कि अगर किसी के बारे में बात करें तो ये अपनी चॉइस हो सकती है कि आई वांट टू
Mhm.
एक्सपीरियंस मोर ऑन द बैटलफील्ड रादर देन बीइंग इन द ग्राउंड. देयर आर सर्टेन प्लेसेस लाइक अगर आप मिलिट्री के बारे में बात करें तो कुछ लोग होते हैं एलओसी पे जाके लड़ते हैं, कुछ लोग होते हैं जो बैक एंड का सपोर्ट प्रोवाइड करते हैं.
Mhm.
आप कैसे हैं उस पर डिफर करता है कि आपका क्या आउटलुक रहेगा, उस पर डिपेंड करता है रादर आपका क्या आउटलुक
Mhm.
रहेगा. But I think so.
Okay.
There is no general perception. Men like equally reading. This is what my
I'm
understanding would
very
say.
astounded, to be honest, because the kind of men I have seen, they are very dismissive towards reading. Like, क्या ही मिल जाएगा इससे तुमको? What is the big deal about this? It is kind of a struggle or a challenge to sit and read in front of them or suggest that they do the same. So,
So what you can do is next time when you face this kind of problem, don't do anything. Don't don't like what Jigna said initially also. Don't preach.
mhm,
आप जब बुक पढ़ते हो
yes,
ना तो आपको पोस्टिट्स लगाने के मिलते हैं और आजकल तो बड़ा अच्छा ऑप्शन आता है, आप ट्रांसपेरेंट वाले पोस्टिट्स लगा देते हो.
yes, yes,
आप
yes,
सिर्फ
yes.
बुक में वो कलरफुल लगा के रख दीजिए जहाँ पे बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कुछ है और रहने दीजिए उसको साइड में. आप 1 हफ्ते रुकिए, 15 दिन रुकिए, आप देखिए ये आप चेंज एक्सपीरियंस करेंगे क्योंकि मैंने इस तरीके से काफी सारे लोगों को रीडर से नॉन रीडर से रीडर में कन्वर्ट करने के लिए मतलब आई हैव सीन देम एक्सपीरियंस द चेंज दैट इज.
That's awesome. That's lovely. Jigna, ma'am?
Yeah. So, as you know, Shweta said, ours is a like open community. We actually started with a women's group, you can say, till almost 10 months. But then, we started getting a lot of requests. So, our actually the first meet, which the 10th meet which we had, was on the uh, one of the author who was a male author. He wanted to actually talk about his books to our readers. So we had this book meets. We had the monthly meets. So in one of the meet, we started with his. So our 10th meet was actually a authors meet where this male author came and he talked about his book. And then that's how many male readers, you can say, they started getting added. So I'll not say that reading is only a hobby or a passion of a
Yes,
woman or
yes, yes, yes.
female. Yeah, it's definitely for everyone. Yeah, perceptions might be different. The way maybe we like the book. There are few maybe maybe the males, or they do not like that book. But of course, it's nothing that ye padna and is only a female or this,
Yes, yes, yes,
उससे
correct.
कोई feminist नहीं बन जाता definitely. So there are lot many books. If you see, like for example, Harry Potter, I mean, Shweta and I have just recently started reading that. I have also not. So I mean, if you see, it's crazy. Like everyone reads that. Everyone like follows that, comments that, and so it's nothing like that nahi male nahi पढ़ सकते. No, definitely.
Mhm.
And as you said, that next time if you get any of this kind of suggestions, give them ask them to ping me or Shweta. We will turn them into a non-reader into the reader.
That's lovely. I'm going to do just that. I think Roman ma'am has joined us back on. Her screen is
Yes,
not.
thank
Yes.
the reason is I joined back because I was listening to all your conversation and I realized that is
Mhm.
very true that I was not an avid reader, nor am I today. I read very selective and at times I don't complete the books. So, what made me start was Chetan Bhagat's novel.
Hmm.
When I started, it was Chetan Bhagat's novel Five Point Someone, and through which I got interested reading in. And I had read Shedney Sheldon. Then my interest started diverting to motivational books. But there are certain, like, I have not completed The Giant Within Me. The Awaken the Giant. I have not completed that. I have also not completed. I read tits and bits whenever I feel like it. Even the Rhonda Brand Secret, I have not completed it, though I really like that book, but in tidbits. So it is very true that as individuals, we do have our own preferences, our own likings, but completing all book could be at times you don't get understanding or you don't like reading it, but there are certain books that you complete over a period of time, and I'm really grateful that Jigna and Shweta are part of this show, who are really making non-readers into a readers and developing that habit of reading. And beautiful question put by Afra from different perspective, which are very appreciating. Thank you, Afra, and
Okay.
very interesting answers by you all. I will definitely try few things for my children and for my husband. Let's see how would I get a response. I'll definitely share it with you all.
Lovely.
Thank you so
So
much. This is a fun conversation. I think so. That is the first time on platform I have, and I've spoken to Jigna, and I'm so happy to know that we both are so similar in nature when it comes to our likings, dislikings towards things and places. But one thing I'll say, I'll tell you when you said about um, about men not liking, or this is being a sexism issue where women are more prominent. I think so. Women work towards their passion very easily, and men have equal other responsibilities or priorities also. So with me and Jigna, I would certainly say that we take our passion ahead. We took our passion ahead that ways, and
Yes.
certainly your questions were bomb. They are amazing the way you have put it, and you're young, and the
Oh,
way you
thank you.
deliver your questions is phenomenal. I
Thank you.
truly
Thank you.
enjoyed the questions, the
Thank
way
you.
you put it.
I loved interviewing you as well. It was amazing. And the fact that, I mean, I typically am declared, a very boring person because of the kind of books I pick, historical fiction. So nobody is really interested in listening to me, with regards to what I have to share or what I saw or, something interesting. So it was very nice to see that two ladies I have something in common with you. And, I would very much love to join your book clubs, honestly.
Yes, you're always
Anytime.
welcome. Yeah, yeah. And as Shweta said, this is the first time we are interacting. We do meet in few events, but this is
Yeah.
something you brought us together here, and that's actually thanks Romal for doing that. Lot of
great.
things people have this, that we both are frenemies or something
This
like
we
that,
have
but
spoken
it's
also,
not. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks
Really, it's
Romal for
always to
getting.
have these similar mindset people together, because in this way we also got to know that you are so similar in your thought process, in your likings, in your dislikings, and even in which books you have not read. So it's more to know you so personal. It was wonderful, in fact. I was there in the background listening to everything because I'm there
Yeah.
in Nagpur at my mother's place. So all my nephews and niece, they're around. I'm sure in the background you'll hear this bua. So I was mute. I was not on the site because they were there. They are around. But it was wonderful listening to you all. So keep coming. We'll be keep inviting you. Hope we together grow as community in the work
Definitely.
that you are
Absolutely.
doing. You follow your passion, we follow our passion, and somewhere or the other kids and women are a common intersecting point where we are doing something for them. So it's great meeting you all. Sorry for the noises from the
No, no
background,
Perfectly
problem.
all right.
and
Yeah,
thank you
and
so much
I
for
would just,
joining me.
yeah,
Yes,
I would
yes,
just
please.
like to tell Afra, yeah, thanks, Afra. I mean, for the wonderful questions. I actually thought, I don't know, what she will ask, but the way you put up the questions were, I mean, amazing. I and Shweta, we can still go on for next 1 hour. So, yeah,
I'm glad you feel that way. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really wanted this conversation to be interesting and not just, what books do you like? Okay, how do I start reading a book if I'm not a reader and all of those things? Because I think they're very shallow questions and I always like to have meaningful conversations with people. So it was just, it was an absolute pleasure to be joined by you, to be joined with you and, to be talking about all of these things. Thank you.
Thank you. With this, we come to an end of our today's session. You viewers will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. with our two important mother and duo coming together on our platform with wonderful insights. So, see you tomorrow. Till then, everyone, take care.
bye.
Atma Namaste.